What's up, everybody? It's your favorite bipolar releases favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Optimus Prime. Now, the reason why I say that is because this line from Revoltech has just been a hit or a miss for me. Some of their stuff I have absolutely adored. Some of it I like it as long as you get it in the right pose. Some of it I think looks goofy by every standard except for an extreme pose that they put on the box. Luckily, I had the opportunity to look at this guy from Brian Brink because I'm not sure who else got it, and I really wanted to take a look at it. So let's take a look at it. But in order to do so, we need to start with accessories. He comes with a wide array of hands, 2 posing hands left and right, 2 trigger finger hands left and right, 1 I'm gonna get you hand for his left, 1 pointing hand for his right, and 1 set of "It's over, Prime, never" set of hands with the fingers interlocked. And I guess you could have him do kind of like a evil James Bond villain sitting in a chair with those hands as well. And all of that is in addition to the 2 fist hands that you saw in the opening footage. He also comes with this axe because it's kind of an unspoken rule that you have to. It's varying degrees of translucent orange. It does look quite nice. It's kind of like more translucent towards the edges and then kind of more deeper towards the middle, so to speak. And it just plugs into the peg on his wrist the same way any of the hands do. He comes with his kind of blaster, and I'll tell you, I'm not crazy about the sculpt of this. Prime's rifle is kind of like a very iconic thing for me. Like the chest windows, the ears, the faceplate, the rifle. Like there's a lot of things about him that are super iconic to me, and this kind of misses the mark just in terms of sculpt. Now, obviously, this is a bit of a stylized Prime, but I don't think it's stylized enough to kind of go this far from the standard regarding something that's so iconic. But that's my personal opinion regarding it. We have silver paint on it, and the line work sculpt-wise is nice. But I'm just not crazy about the aesthetic itself. He will hold it, though, with absolutely no problem and easy to get in and out, and it's kind of seamless with his trigger finger hand. He also comes with the display stand. I think Brink is trying to sell this, so I'm not going to open it, but you can put the, you see how, you know the vibes. This end goes into the base of the stand. This end goes into the 2 C-clips that are held with tension. So let's talk about the figure. One thing I want to say first and foremost is in a resting position, proportion-wise and sculpt-wise proportions-wise and sculpt-wise, he's kind of well put together. A lot of the amazing Yamaguchi stuff, like it doesn't look good in a sort of A stance resting pose, you kind of got to get it into something super extreme and then it looks amazing, but just standing there, it doesn't look great. This looks great. It looks great just standing there. The abdomen is maybe a little long, you know what I mean? But, that's such a nitpicky thing. Overall, I think for the line, it's fantastic in terms of how it sits in a resting pose. All right, let's move on. So the head. We have silver paint on the face plate and on the face, and then we have the blue eyes, and then we have the silver painted on the blue. The ears do not articulate. They're kind of stuck, which is fine. The neck is on a ball peg, and then the head is on a ball peg. Using both, you can get, as you would expect, pretty extreme angles, up, down, over, etc. No real issues there. For the chest, we have the translucent blue. Behind it, we have silver and blue paint that's both metallic with the silver line work done here. It looks nice. The yellow paint on the marker lights, and then we have the silver paint here, silver paint on the chest. Articulation-wise, this operates on a hinge. It's pretty seamless. It does break up the sculpt down here, but for the most part, it works fairly well. You get back to there, and then look at that. And that's operating off the same single hinge. Great forward, I'd say fair back, and then you have the swivel built into the bottom hinge. So this the waist as a whole kind of works as a universal, which is interesting. But what is kind of bizarre is I would have expected it to be the bottom connection on a ball peg so that you could get some teapot and a little bit more range out of it. But I think that ultimately it works. This does kind of end up looking a bit like a mouth, right? I am Optimus Prime. It's early. And then we have the arms. So deco-wise, we have the Autobot symbol sculpted and painted. It looks nice. We have the silver arms, and then we have the black inside. They are not done as well. It's mainly just this one right here, the stuff on the sides. This one's done very clean. For the shoulder, let's go through with deco first. We have silver accents here. We have yellow accents there. And that's about it. So this hinge is it's kind of interesting. So once again, it's like it's stuck deep inside the chest. That allows you to get it out to 90 degrees, but then there's a ball peg at the end of the shoulder, so you can even get a little extra sauce if you so desire. That also allows the 360 around and a bit of a butterfly, because this whole bracket that this hinge sits in also swivels, which is nice. And it's kind of like seamless. That's what I'm kind of most impressed about regarding this figure, having reviewed a lot of figures from this line, is just how seamless the hyper articulation is. So we have a bicep swivel. We have a double jointed elbow that gets you a great range. I found recently that I've been a little bit irritated by single hinged elbows that only get you 90 degrees, so it's nice to see one. And look how seamless that is. It's another well engineered thing. You know, the box there. And then the hands are on ball pegs, which is fine. Same for the other side. Now, this is something that Brink wanted me to make sure that I mentioned and make sure that I did myself. These hip skirts, they are on small, itty bitty, teeny weeny little ball pegs. He broke one of his. He has two of these, so he wanted me to make sure to mention to you guys, especially that's these side ones. You know, I find are even a bit more troubling. But I'm going to just fit that in later so we can look at the articulation. For the hips, first of all, we have silver paint on the pelvis, silver paint on the thighs. For the hips themselves, they're on universals. The universals are basically disc hinges. So it's, once again, it looks good. You're going to get way out to the side, no problem. And forward and back, no problem. The butt flap does not move, so you're a little limited there. Look, and that one just popped off there. So I'm just going to set those to the side so we don't break Brink's toy, okay? Then we have a double hinge knee. Great range once again, and it looks good. And then we have the silver paint on the legs and so forth. For the ankles, you have an ankle tilt down that's a little limited. Not crazy limited, but for the line, I feel like it's a little limited. And up with a toe hinge up, which is going to help with that limitation in that regard. And then an ankle rocker that's also a little limited, which is a bit surprising. So this is one of those things, right? This is the big question regarding this line. How much do you want to sacrifice in regards to sculpt for the sake of articulation, and vice versa? Let's do some size comparisons. So there he is with an SH Figuarts, a Mafex, a Black Series, and a Marvel Legend. So he's pretty much right in scale with the Japanese 1/12 scaling, and looks good. Final thoughts-wise, let's talk about the negatives. Given that it is an amazing Yamaguchi line, I do wish I had a little bit more articulation, namely in the shoulders. The boxy nature of a Transformer prevents the shoulder from kind of getting the full outward movement, not up and not around, but out to the side, that I feel like this figure, especially with some of the hand poses like the pointing hand and the outstretched fingers, I can't help but find myself in positions where I wish I had just a little bit more in regard to range of motion on the shoulders. For the ankles as well. I also wish that there was a little bit more space between the butt of the rifle and the cusp of the forearm. It's a tight fit there, and once again, if I had a little bit more room, I could get a little bit more range out of this guy. And of course, the waist flap pegs have a tendency to pop off as you're manipulating it, and in Brink's experience, break in that process. Although he does take full responsibility for it, I believe, and feels as though he wasn't paying complete attention. But still, it's a small peg, something to be mindful of. Plenty of positives though as well. I think the proportions work great. I think the overall sculpt presents well, one of the best presenting ones, but as a result, you lose a little bit of articulation, which is supposed to be what this line is about. Now, tons of articulation still come through, but you don't get that full, extreme, hyper articulation that this line has been known for. But you get a good looking sculpt. It's a trade-off, right? What are we willing to accept? The materials feel fine. It has a good presence, and I feel like it's fairly well priced, sculpted, and painted. So it is a recommend from me, but I'm not sure if a Flames Toys model kit of Prime wouldn't be more enjoyable. However, in the same breath, it won't be as G1, right? So trade-off, aesthetics, sacrifices, etc. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.